Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're going over gaming news February 12th through the 18th. A few interesting things this week. I'll try to keep this short. It's not overly long, but some of the things are a little long-winded, so we'll go ahead and get started. First off, I want to I remembered today that I never said what the launch game was that you guys voted for in January. And if you missed out, well, hey, I always have a launch game every year just for the channel that you guys vote for. I throw up some options that I'm interested in, and then you guys pick. And this time, you guys voted for Star Wars Outlaws. So thank you for voting. And so far, we know that Outlaws is just going to be sometime in 2024, and probably after probably the fourth quarter is what I'm thinking. September on, maybe, if we're lucky, but probably before the holidays. So somewhere in that window. Again, thank you guys for voting, and if you missed out, you can vote again next year. So first, let's start off with From Software. Elden Ring is now completely owned by From Software. So they had a dual partnership with Bandai Namco to help with funding or publishing or whatever. Bandai Namco has some really good IPs under them that they help with or are directly in control of. But according to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the transfer between Bandai Namco to From Software, their share, happened on April 23rd of last year. So that roughly puts it about 10 months ago. Now, we haven't heard very much about the DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, and a lot of us are actually quite excited for that. I mean, they sold over like 12 million or 15 million copies. So Elden Ring was very popular. Again, it's not a game, it's for everybody, but it's definitely a lot more refined than some of the Dark Souls games. But Bloodborne is still probably my favorite. It's a good one. But yeah, we're waiting to hear, and we just haven't had a lot of updates. Personally, I was wrong. I thought it was going to be, the 2-year anniversary, February of this year, but we also got an update from Software saying that there is still no official release date yet, and that it's not coming soon. It's just, maybe at the earliest at the end of this year, maybe on the 3rd anniversary, but having to go through this process with Bandai Namco, which is a huge company compared to them, maybe this was kind of sucking up some of their time. And so maybe that's why we haven't really heard any updates until just fairly recently that the DLC is going to be coming out, sometime, but not anytime soon. So we're not going to expect it in the next 6 months. So unfortunately, folks, we're going to have to take longer, and we should also temper our expectations, because just because it's taken this long doesn't mean it's going to be a absolutely huge, expansive, humongous game. And because they've had to divert some of their resources and time and also funds to deal with the U.S. Patents Office and Bandai Namco. So just keep that in mind, folks. As soon as I know something, you guys will know something. I promise. Next is Roblox. So this has been around since 2006, actually, which is, been around forever. I think that's about as around the time as Minecraft released. But Roblox is drowning in debt. They have a major problem. So they are expected to lose $1.4 billion in 2024. I don't know about you, but man, that really sounds like a lot of money. And in 2023, they lost 1.2 billion. In 22, they lost 900 million. In 21, they lost 500 million. In 2020, they lost 250. And see, they should not be losing money, because all of that lockdown money was out there. People were paid directly. There were literally trillions dumped into people's laps. And again, we've talked about some other companies on the channel where it's like, they shouldn't be losing money necessarily. They should be gaining some. Like we mentioned that with PlayStation with their subscriber base. It's like everybody was pretty much making money, but now we're hearing, of another company where they're actually hemorrhaging money. So they're still getting paid a lot, but their expenses are more. And so why is that? Well, they have a creator service where they have over 3 million developers that create stuff and can make money on Roblox. They paid out like I looked up so much information today, I forget exactly, but I'm mixing up some numbers, so I'm not sure which is which. But they put out millions or hundreds of, or tens of millions of dollars paying people. It was an insane number. Actually, it might have been hundreds of millions. Again, there's 3 million creators, and there's more coming to the service pretty much every month. And they have 70 million daily active users. Roblox is huge. And so they got to run all of those servers. There's expense costs. They need actual buildings too to house those servers and offices. They got to pay all of those developers that make sales through Roblox. And so, yeah, their overhead is pretty high, and they haven't figured out a way yet to really make money. It's the same with like Twitch as well, because it's like Twitch has never actually made money, but they're still running. But we know that Amazon is making plenty of money, and so Twitch can keep running. But eventually, your service has to be making some money. Otherwise, it's just not sustainable. And they've been losing money since 2019. So we're going on year 5 now, and each year they just lose more money. So the first year was 71 million. 2020 was 250, 21 was 500, 22 was 900 million, 23 1.2 billion, and 24 is expected to be 1.4. So I really don't see them getting out of this unless they change their business model or make some cuts somewhere, which is gonna make devs very unhappy. But yeah, they can't keep running like this. I mean, at this rate, they're going to be at 1.8 billion or 1.7 billion in 25. They have got to turn this around. But maybe somebody would buy them. But who would that be? Honestly, what do you guys think? I'd think maybe Epic Games or Xbox maybe. But man, someone's got to shell out billions because they're huge. They got a ton of users. So yeah, that's kind of sad. But yeah, Roblox, I think their days are numbered. They might be a little too big for a lot of companies to possibly consider buying them. And then their overhead is way too high, and it just keeps getting worse. You should see their margins. Their margins are horrible. Yeah, it's awful. Next up, Disney is teaming up with Epic Games to make a new universe of all of the Disney IPs and Fortnite. Now, this is interesting. Now, we've heard of some collaborations before, but the ad shows that there's like a Disney castle in the middle, and there's regions around it, and they have different colors, and there's different things within the regions. It's kind of like a bird's eye view. If you haven't seen the ad, it is interesting. You should take a look at it, but that's like the Disney universe. Now, this kind of makes me think of like Dreamlight Valley, or some of the other Disney things that they've done where they've reiterated their characters and their IPs and make it kind of more family friendly. And I expect this will be somewhat of the same, because they didn't show anything about Deadpool, by the way. They showed a lot of other characters, and in collaboration with Fortnite, which we've already seen, right? Star Wars and Marvel and other high IPs have been in Fortnite where you could be characters and stuff, but again, that's not super long term. That's kind of more of a temporary thing. But this seems a lot more temporary, because toward the end of the ad, it says play, create, watch, and shop. And it's really like, okay, is this supposed to be this universe they're making? Is this supposed to be like a one-stop shop for everything, where you can buy things, you can create things, you can play games, you can watch media? Is this going to be kind of like a Roblox thing too, where you can have kind of like your in-house developers or your third-party developers that create content, and then other people can buy and purchase through a store, and the developers basically get a commission, or the creators do? I don't know. There's really not a lot of information on this, but Disney is willing to put up $1.5 billion with Epic Games. And, Bob Iger is like, oh, I guess games are popular. And so they're really going to put some a good amount of money on this. And the ads do says that it's coming soon. So is it going to be in here by the time for the holidays? I'm really kind of curious what this is supposed to be shaping up, but it's almost like they're creating a hub for all forms of entertainment to be in one place. We kind of got this idea with like the metaverse, There's been some other ideas too, with like Sony having a patent, but they're still waiting for approval of, to create a space where their items can be transferred between different games, just like in the Oasis and Ready Player One. And so, is this kind of the next step of entertainment? Are these big companies starting to do that? I don't know. We'll have to see. With this new Disney universe, of course, there's going to be Fortnite stuff, but there's also going to be Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, Avatar, and Disney, all shoved into one place, and they're going to, microtransaction the hell out of it. I have no doubt in my mind. So we'll have to see what that is. Next up is HellDivers 2, and boy, is it off to a good start. So again, this is exclusive to PlayStation. This is not on Xbox. It is available on PC, so you can get it on Steam. Metacritic shows that it's an 83 for professional critics and 8.7 at a user score. So the users are actually giving it a higher score, which we don't see that very often. Currently on Steam charts, it has a peak of 326,000. And currently, as of today, it had about 278,000. So it's holding some pretty good numbers. It's currently number 4, right below Pal World. And this is actually Sony's biggest game that they've ever put out on Steam. It beat out God of War by double the sales. So that's impressive. It did have a rocky launch, but within hours they worked on fixing a lot of those issues. They had server issues and issues with anti-cheat. So, most of us aren't necessarily a fan of anti-cheat. Okay, they're buggy and people still work around them anyway. When people are wanting to do something they're not supposed to, we are just some of the most innovative creatures in problem solving that, quote, issue. But yeah, there'll always be hackers, folks. You can't get around that, really. They can try to stop them, but really they're just slowing them down. But yeah, HellDivers is doing really good. And this is a game, too, that I really wish I could play. I really enjoyed Destiny when it first started. And this, kind of watching gameplay and listening to people talk about reviews, it really kind of feels like that for me. Okay, there's areas, right, or there's different planets that you can go to and kind of do certain missions or whatever, and you can drop in with a team, which is cool. I think, too, there's also some solo content in the game as well. And it just looks kind of fun, and there's some things to work through, there's some things to grind for, and that really reminiscent of Destiny, and that's what pulled me in the first place. So hopefully, maybe HellDivers 2 will come to Xbox at some point in the future, and if it does, I'll definitely be giving it a shot. Next is Take-Two. So they're trying to skirt around a lawsuit. So what exactly is going on here? Well, the lawsuit is over in-game currency not being transferable to the next game. So they make, of course, the 2K series, right, for NBA and whatever else. They also had a 2K Lego game that they put out, which didn't sell very well. You could tell by the discounts of that game. And literally within months, it was like 50% off. So again, it was like another Need for Speed Unbound. It was just not selling very good. But the lawsuit is to say, look, this stuff is, since it's not transferable, you're basically taking money, quote, digital money away from players that have paid for it. And you're not allowing them to spend the currency or have it be transferable to somewhere else. It's just being deleted or expired when the game goes offline. Now, we know that most of these games that have in-game currency, they also have an online aspect, and there's also servers. And so when those shut down, well, along with the game, the currency disappears. And we know, too, that this is on purpose because they never really end up just having you pay for what you need for a certain item or bundle. You always have to pay more. We've seen this in Overwatch. We've seen it in COD. We've seen it in, I don't know, just about everything. Diablo's another one. I'm trying to think of one that's not Activision Software, but they got them pretty good. Also, we've seen that in EA games like Madden and NHL, and we've seen it in 2K NBA. It's been all over the place. And so, honestly, yeah, that currency just disappears. So we'll have to keep an eye on this lawsuit, but, the lawyers of Take-Two are already saying that the currencies are fictional and that they're within the confines of the game. So think about that. They're saying that your real money that you're using and getting a token for basically is fictional, and if you don't end up using it, well, too bad. But again, the problem is you always have to buy more than what this thing is actually worth in in-game currency, and I really see that as a problem because they're purposefully trying to get you to waste money or spend more than you really need without actually providing a service for that. And they could argue, well, of course we are. You can just buy more and buy something else. But again, that's the whole point, is just to continue to get you to spend more, to keep buying more stuff. And this is why microtransactions and live service suck nowadays, is because it's all about just getting you to spend money. And if you never reimburse it, well, it's just like having a gift card for a store that you never used. You still spent the money, but you actually didn't really get the value of that gift card. And maybe you spent most of it even, but still you left some on the card. And it's exactly the same idea. Also, too, it's like auto-paying for subscriptions, and this is why companies and any other service wants you to just be on auto-pay, not because it's easier, but because you forget, and you keep paying. So as long as the card's active, cha-ching, baby, every flippin' month, and I couldn't believe it when I had a subscription for a gaming service that ran for an additional 2 years without me knowing about it, and that ended up being about $350 over those 2 years that I never got back. I didn't even know I had the service. This also happened to my wife and I when we didn't know that we had a gym membership still, because we paid for 12 months and that was it. And they didn't explain to us that, oh, it's just auto renewal. It's like, no, I just want to pay for 12 months. Oh, okay. Well, of course, the months rolled on by, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And they did refund us those, at least some of it, but we didn't get all of that money back either. So again, auto pay is just another scammy way to get more money from you than what you really think you're giving. So just be aware. And the best way to fight against this, folks, is just don't buy it. Holy frick. I mean, Diablo 4 has horse armor now. That was more than the original game at launch, which is insane. The game was $60 for the base, right? And the horse armor is $65. Okay, it's horse armor. It's just a little miniature thing on the screen. It's not even like you really get to see it that often, or anybody else for that matter. And they want you to spend $65? This is insane, folks. Don't bother buying it. Unless it's something really special, fine. But if everything is really special, or you're just one of those obsessive-compulsive collectors, maybe you shouldn't play live service games, because you've got to be blowing an unreal amount of money that you probably don't have. So yeah, we'll have to see where this lawsuit goes, because if it does go one way, it could really be good for us, where we can actually just pay in increments that we need, which would be great. But yeah, Take-Two also has some huge lawyers, so we'll have to see what happens. Next is Ubisoft. So the CEO says that Skull and Bones is a AAA game. Are you out of your mind? And then says, basically in the same quote, that it's a quadruple A game. What? What the heck is quadruple A? Okay, because it better be better than Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3, just to name a few, and Red Dead Redemption 2. It better be better than those. But boy, playing Skull and Bones open beta myself, and a previous closed beta before that, boy, it is not a quadruple A game. Not even close. But the CEO says that, quote, it's a full, complete, and vast game that will deliver in the long run. Well, why isn't it delivering now? I mean, seriously, you're making a game for like 10 years and you're telling me that it'll deliver in the long run? If it's a quadruple A game, it should be absolute flippin' perfection, okay, and it should be better than its past iterations, like Black Flag and Rogue. Again, folks, those are made by the same developer and studio here, Ubisoft. And Skull and Bones is just missing drastic features that were in those previous games, like being able to board a ship and take it over. Any island you see, you're able to hop off and kind of explore a little bit. And that was fun. Also, too, aspects of the game, even though some of those were like 10, 12 years ago, and I'm not talking about the remaster versions, I'm just talking about the original versions themselves, and they, in some ways, look better than what Skull and Bones does. Some of the facial animations, some of the animations of the characters, some of the areas on the ocean, and just how the ships move and stuff. It's just like it still looks pretty good for the most part, but there's still just some unrefinement in there. And it doesn't look the best, and it's definitely not quadruple A. I mean, he is getting smashed on the internet for this. And, so far, I don't think Skull and Bones is really doing that good. I've seen one of my friends on my friends list, I got over 100, that actually consistently plays the game right now. And they're in a party playing with one other guy. And that's it. Everyone else is playing COD, playing Pal Worlds, playing Minecraft, playing some other older stuff. But yeah, Skull and Bones is not a favorite on there. There were a few people that tried the beta, myself included. I would have streamed it, but Twitch wouldn't allow me for whatever reason. There were at least 361,000 people that tried the open beta on the first day. But again, that's kind of all you needed. You didn't really, unfortunately need anything else. You just needed to play the open beta, and that was the game. And how they can expand this or improve it or make it better. Nowadays, people are so used to being screwed, they have a shorter fuse and less patience. And so if a game comes out horrible, well, that was kind of your chance and you blew it in your first week. This is why HellDivers 2 has done so well, is because the people actually fixed the game within the first several hours. They probably didn't sleep much, I guarantee it. But when they launched the game, they fixed it very quickly and resolved the issues, and those issues never came back. Kind of the same with Elden Ring, is that like the port for PC was actually pretty bad, but the original thing they made it for console, they fixed that issue within 30 hours or 36 hours. It was pretty quick, and then they still continued to work on stuff on PC so that they could try to fix it within the first couple of weeks. But yeah, Ubisoft, they have their work cut out for them because this game has been in development at least for 10 years. It was supposed to be DLC for Black Flag, and it's just not the game that we wanted. If you are curious, I do have a video at least talking just like this about kind of my thoughts and review of the open beta of Skull and Bones, which that was only like a week before launch, official launch, which I think is today. But yeah, it just really wasn't that good. In short, it was horrible. Also, Ubisoft has said that they're not going to, they do have a VR game coming out. This is going to be an Assassin's Creed franchise. But they will no longer be adding investment to future VR projects after this game. There's just not enough market for it. And so we've seen, too, with the iteration of like the PSVR 2, that their sales were horrible at launch. They only had about 200,000, and they were expecting 2 million within the first month. And they didn't even get close to that. As of today, they've sold 600,000 units, but that doesn't even cover the R&D of making their version 2 VR headset. And yeah, that's still nowhere near the 2 million that they were hoping for at launch, which was last year. Also, the metaverse, they're super big into VR and everything. They have the Meta Quest 3, and they're working on 4, and they're working on doing some improvements. Still, $1,000 or $1,500 is still really expensive for a headset. That we got to learn, I think, at the beginning of last year. But so far, they've lost over $40 billion on making the metaverse. It has just been a black hole. $40 billion! That's half of what Sony made all of last year. That's crazy, and that's a sixth of what Microsoft made last year. $40 billion. I can't even imagine. Boy, Mark Zuckerberg better have some deep pockets because VR is really not doing that well. Also, too, with the metaverse hardware sales, they're expecting to only pull 1.2 million in all of 2024. That includes the holidays and discounts and sales and everything. They're really not going to sell that much. And Metaverse 2 has also been off to a horrible start. Also, too, Xbox has said that they won't be investing in VR. They had Google Glass or, Yeah, they had Google Glass for a while. That was a thing. Well, Google hasn't done anything else outside of that. And then Xbox also had something that was like um, augmented reality, AR. Instead of virtual, it's augmented, so you could like play Minecraft on your table or whatever in your house, and some other things, and that would actually help with some creation and design projects, which is cool for what it is. But again, it was just something that was not very readily adopted, and people really didn't need compared to all of the other options out there, which people are just still okay with doing it on a laptop or doing it on a pad, and that's good enough. And it was a heck of a lot cheaper too. So far, we just have more and more companies that are just saying, we're not really going to do this, or the numbers that we're getting from sales are just showing that it's just not doing very good. Now, do I think VR is going away? No. VR has been around since like the 90s, which is crazy, I know, but it's been around since the 90s. And it has made some wonderful leaps and bounds, but it still needs to get to a point where it's cheap enough for just the common person. Because when we're talking hundreds for a headset, or 1,000, or a couple of thousand, like Apple's, that thing is ridiculous. And then you still want, a thing with the treadmill, like an omnidirectional treadmill of some sort. I mean, what we want is like Ready Player One, but I still think we're like a couple of decades from that actually becoming a normal thing. And I really think with Ready Player One, we'll probably get the Oasis first. That could then have a virtual reality overlay that we can connect to and experience it that way. That's what I think is coming for gaming. But again, I think that's far into the future. So that's what I had today. I guess it wasn't as long as I thought it was, which is maybe a good thing. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, you can always find me over at YouTube at GamingGarbage22, and you can also find me over at Twitch as well at Don't Tread on Thee. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Man, I know I made a video a while ago. I was just shooting some good old, like 2004 or 2006 Star Wars Battlefront. And was just talking about the jobs market. And I still got some friends that are struggling. Some friends that are still looking. And so, yeah, just be mindful about quitting your job. Make sure you're doing well enough. Or you're doing better than most at your job at least. To keep your job, keep that job security. Remember, your work ethic is your security blanket on the job site. Keep it healthy. And then, yeah, boy, just ride this out. I think this is really going to suck. And I don't think we've hit max pain yet. So just be careful out there. Be aware. Keep working hard. Keep making that money. And I'll see you guys on the next one.